Hey, this is Brian Smith and Podcast on Wheels, powered by Power Loops. Today, we've got a guy that I've grown to love in a very short amount of time, Mr. Nick Alfano with the program. Nick, thank you for being in the studio today.
Thanks for having me, sir.
Awesome. Nick, you've got a great story. You've shared your story many times, but where do you want to bring us up to date on kind of what's going on with you right now?
As we sit right here, this is an interesting one. Hopefully you get some footage of where we're sitting, because we're sitting on Elysium, which is the name of the property that we recently are acquiring, for the program. And essentially, the entire intention, the sole intention of the acquisition of this property is just to help dudes be better dudes, which is kind of like a 30,000 foot view when people ask what I do. The elevator pitch is we just help men be better men. And so, this is a very powerful moment for me, because this doesn't happen if we don't acquire this thing, if we don't meet, a few months back, if you don't come to Vegas and go through the experience that you went through. So this is a pretty surreal opportunity. So
beautiful.
Appreciate
you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And obviously, guys, I'm wearing one of his shirts here today that I earned in Vegas. I'll say it that way.
Yeah, you earned it.
But yeah, we're in Tennessee at your place that you've acquired. And so, how many guys do you have in this event? What is there, how does that work?
So the program's got different levels, and it is called the program. I get a lot of pushback on that sometimes. We had all kinds of cutesy names picked out when we started this movement. But the reality is we're results focused. And so when people are asked, like, hey, what's your program called? What are you going to call your program? I was like, it's just the program. It is the quintessential, the most powerful. It's the program. So we've got 4 levels. There's been over 317 guys come through the gates. Wow. Currently, each level's got its own respective unit. Like you're currently involved in a unit called Protocol, which is basically our 90-day, I wouldn't say filter, but it is, because we're trying to build something special whereby if you make it through the gates of Protocol into the program, like you've done some things, you've earned it. You've earned that shirt. You're going to earn a whole lot more when we get to the live of Protocol. That being said, in your particular unit, there's 16 of you, but 12 are new, and then we've got 4 like power members that actually some need to go through the 90-day and get what we call a dick kick, and we'll come back up.
Right.
And then there's some guys that are there's absolute savages and leaders that are kind of assisting in Protocol.
Okay. So as somebody would enter the Protocol, there's, is it just focused on business? Is it focused on what do you look at when you're bringing somebody in the filter? Yeah.
So what we're ultimately looking for is some sort of alignment with our core values. And we have developed a system that we believe is like the complete man. I'm really, you've heard me on stage, but anybody who has heard me, I have a bit of friction, or a bit of a rub when it comes to this like personal development world. I think there's a lot of guys out there, I wouldn't say doing it wrong, but maybe doing it for the wrong reasons. And while we do tout a lot of like financial wins, and we can definitely move the needle for you from A to B in the finance world, what we mainly focus on in this order is faith, family, fitness, then finance. Okay. And so like that, again, the 4-dimensional man is the complete man. And I think you can look at any man's life. And again, I'll keep saying men, because ladies, unfortunately, this is a men's movement. We move men. And so we're really just trying to wake up a lot of these men, I wouldn't say stateside specific. We actually have a gentleman from London that's interested in joining, and one from Australia who's trying to get the time zones lined up. But let's just stay in the States. We're trying to, I think we can all agree, this country is pretty fucked right now. Can I cuss on your podcast?
Absolutely.
All right, cool. There's just a lot of weak men out there. And unfortunately, like toxic masculinity is a phrase that gets thrown around a lot. There's so many, like the divorce rate when I was young, I'm 42 years old, was like pushing 50%. And that was like an astronomical concept that, there's a 50% chance you're going to get divorced. It's pushing like 67% now. So you've got a lot of, and when I say divorces, usually it's mom raising the babies. So you've got mom raising young men. She only knows so much about, bringing that masculine energy. And don't get me wrong, there's some absolute boss women out there that are bringing more masculine than even the men, which is, again, why we created what we created. All that to say, imagine a young man growing up with just a mom, then going to the school system, which is like 70% female taught and oriented. And then all these other external outputs right now that are being shown to him, whereby toxic, like if you can't, it just what does it mean to be a man is like mind blowing right now for these young guys growing up. So we're not really grabbing them young per se, but we're definitely trying to shift the dynamic of what it means to be a man, be a protector, be a provider. But also I think what is missing is like the vulnerability piece. Like you see me on stage, and if you've seen any of my work, if you want to call it that, like I cry all the time, brother. Like that's just who I am, and that's okay. And for a long time, and I saw this in my son, I thought that was a big weakness of mine. And so like a big part of this movement is to just show men what it means to be a man and how powerful it can be to actually express all those emotions that you're told as a man, like, shut up, have all the answers, push that down, provide, don't you cry, you little sissy. Like you're just told all these things growing up. And the reality is you can turn some of those emotions into your superpower. And if displayed correctly, they're actually one of the most powerful things you can do for your son if he's watching, for your wife who needs you to show up in several different ways. And most men are not showing up adequately. So anyway, it's 4 dimensions: faith, family, fitness, and then finance. The reality is we have to talk about money to get people to even step through the door and have a conversation with me. So like some of our quote unquote marketing strategies involve like some of our ROIs for clients and stuff. But once you get into the door and you've been to an event now, I think we talked about money, like 20% of the time, 15, maybe, right? But you learn so many things and everything you learn can be trickled down or applied across all 4 domains. So you can learn how you're showing up spiritually, or when we talk faith, it's your belief in God, but it's also your belief in yourself. It's two elements, right? And so like a lot of guys are way out of alignment in that category, and it's definitely affecting their ability to earn money and provide for their family. So we basically show you how, when you get the other 3 houses in order, the way that you start to show up and the lessons that you learn, they all directly correlate to your finance or lack thereof. So, again, moving the needle financially is not difficult for us, but that's definitely not our focus, which is, I'd like to think, why we're a lot different than what's going on out there in this development game. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Correct. And, in years past when I've had businesses, and that was the main thing is, what can we get? What can we sell it for? How does this grow? Yeah. But then, as you and I've talked, there's been times in my life when I'm working 6 days a week, 10, 12 hours, and I'm making okay money, but I'm not able to be there and showing up different now, And so, that's something that you slapped me a few minutes ago on the arm and said, show up different. And that's part of the thing. So tell us what that means to show up different.
It's exactly that. Like, it's a really simple 3-word phrase. And yeah, we actually have like a shirt and a thing we do where this side, you just tap it and you just remind yourself, show up different. And this side is, I'm gonna cuss again, is do hard shit, because I think most men are not doing enough hard shit, which is what builds the character. All that to say, showing up different is, we teach you to become the observer of your own life. Because when you can learn how to hover above yourself and observe the situation, and then this is the important part, through the lens of facts, not feelings. Because I think that's where a lot of people get it twisted. You will adopt a story and be so married to it emotionally that you won't let it go. And that becomes your truth, when the reality is, if you were just to breathe for a second and kind of hover over yourself and see how you're showing up, and then look at it through the lens of facts and say, the facts are, when I react this way, I don't actually get what I say that I want. The result is not the desired, result, the outcome. So why on earth do I keep acting this way? Well, it's because I'm so emotionally invested in the trigger, or, whatever it was, the stimulus of my environment triggered me, and I have this automatic, subconscious, emotional response, and I'm not fucking winning.
Yeah.
And until you learn to become the observer, and then you can start showing up different once you realize that the way you're showing up is not bearing fruit. So usually when guys come to me, it's because they're stuck. They're in their own way. They're stuck some way, whether it's financially, or they're stuck in their marriage, they're stuck their fitness, like they tell themselves a story. We'll stay in fitness for a second. Or genetically, I don't have that waistline, or I can't get the abs, and I'm doing everything right, Nick, and my calorie deficit is there, and I'm tracking my macros, and I'm busting my ass in the gym. So now they're even more married to the fact that it's just not for them, or they're different. When the reality is absolutely not. Like there's something you're doing that we need to pivots, and you need to show up different. And when you start showing up different, everything, like, I actually would like to spend a few seconds talking about what we just talked about outside.
Yeah.
And by the way, when I say outside, I can't stress this enough. I don't know how often you do this on your show, but we're literally in the most badass, this you can't see because the way it's filmed, but we're in a trailer right now. We're in an actual like mobile home that he drove 2.5 hours this morning, got up at 3 a.m., did the workout, because then I'd have to mess him up for not doing the workout. But he went and did the things that we do every morning. We have a morning routine. Drove from Alabama 2.5 hours, and he's sitting on a 50-acre property. We're in the middle of the woods right now. And that's how like powerful it can be when you have an idea and you actually take action. So when I say, let's spend a few minutes on the conversation we had outside, we were just standing in the woods, 12 minutes ago, having a conversation where you actually had an opportunity to become the observer and show up different. So I'd actually like to throw the mic to you and let's just kind of unpack that. Because to me, that was powerful. And you've only been hanging out inside of the container for today's day 10. Right. So 10 days
day
in.
10. Yeah. Day 10. So yesterday in our home business, we had something where, sometimes in sales you get some things done, but then things come back around and it sometimes is a dick kick when you think you've got money coming and then it changes. But at the end of the day, if you're running the business the right way, you're going to take care of your people. You're going to do right by them and to a certain point. But, my wife came to me yesterday, and I'm going to try not to get emotional here because you're going to get me.
Yep.
But my wife came to me and said, this has happened. They need this. And so I get on the phone with them and we work it out and we're able to take care of the customer and make them, adjust what they had purchased, and we'll be there for them in the future. But, she looked at me and said, 6 months ago, you would have said, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What the fuck is going on? Why didn't this happen? Who missed it? Where did we miss? Where did we drop the ball? She said, and yesterday at 5:09, I think is when the calls came in, right after we're wrapping up. And I looked at Courtney and I said, why don't we take the boys outside and play basketball? Our 8 and 6 year olds. So she looked at me with tears, bro.
Yeah.
And she's like,
that's everything.
It's different. It's different. So I'm showing up different in 10 days.
So what happens after you? So let's just recap real quick. My man doesn't want to give too much away. He literally took a financial L, which I think we can all attest has happened several times. Like imagine getting 2 returns at your doorstep. You're the business owner and you take an L. Like that money was in your account or expected to be, and then it gets just yoinked. And it's difficult when it's unexpected, and it happened 2 times in a matter of 20 minutes. So it's kind of like bam, bam, like 2 jabs to the face. You have an opportunity in that moment, right? You can have an emotional trigger that you're used to having, which doesn't always bear fruit for you. You can say, hold on for a second. Let me hover over myself. If I, Brian, continue to show up the way I used to show up, this is the outcome. Why? Because I can just look at the patterns of my life and this is what happens. Well, I'm trying to break the pattern. This is my opportunity for a pattern interrupt. So then you tell the missus, let's go play some basketball outside. So then what happens?
Well, we take, it's me and Courtney, and our boys are 8 and 6.
Yep.
And we went outside and the basketball game horse where you interchange. So my boys played 3-letter words because they're 8 and 6 and they don't have that, attention. But we went out and sat down and some outdoor chairs and watched our boys play basketball.
Yeah.
And we didn't say anything else about that L. We just talking the business.
Yep.
And we focused on
what really
that
matters.
Moment.
Yeah, buddy.
Amen. Yeah. So, and then we played 2-on-2, parents versus kids. Yeah. And I beat them 10-9. I'm not going to let my kids win. All right. I'm still going to teach them to be competitive.
Right? I'm with you on that.
But we'll let them get close. But 10-9, we won. So,
but the reality is all the focus wasn't on the money or the lack thereof or the L that you took in the finance domain, right? It's like, how can we pour into our family and then ultimately our faith? How can we completely just shift? Perspective is really what we're talking about here. How can you create intentional perspective shifts, not only for you, but for your wife? Because your wife noticed, well, if Brian's pivoting and showing up this way, well, shit, I gotta show up a little different my damn self. You know what I mean? And it happens. That's what I'm saying. It's a ripple effect. So talk to me about then you said your wife went on to, I think, create a nice dinner.
Absolutely. She, as soon as that happened, she went in and, it was Tuesday. So it was Taco Tuesday at the house, quesadillas, tacos. And so she goes in and plans a spread. And then she knew I was coming to the property today.
Yeah.
And started preparing lunch for me and the guys that are here. Yeah. And I'm like, wait, that's different.
Yeah.
Now she's planning ahead.
Yeah.
And now, it's that connection that I haven't had with her.
Yeah.
And we've been together for 10 years.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, we're doing this. She's had her own businesses. She's done successful things. I've done some things. And now it's like, we're coming back together.
Yeah.
And it's different. It's a different relationship. It's a different communication. It's a different understanding. And the word that she's used since I've been back is safe.
Mm.
She feels safe when she puts her head right here.
Yeah, buddy.
And that's different.
That's it, man.
That's different.
And the reality is I wouldn't say that's all that they want, but if you were to line up, and we've done this test before, you line up any of our wives across the members in the program, but just women in general, one of the number one things that they look for in a mate, if you want to go that far, is security. Mm-hmm. Another word for safe, right? They want to feel secure. And the minute they don't feel secure, well, then you'll definitely start to see them show up different. One of the things I like to point out to some of my guys, and this actually wasn't an issue for you coming into the program, but if you are not showing up correctly, we'll say, you know, as a man, as basically the king of your four walls, the women will take over. Like, they're the most powerful creatures on the planet Earth. And once you fail to show up in your full masculine, which is not dunking on your wife or being the man or beating your chest or, you know, it's, you know, where does the queen sit on the chessboard? She sits right next to you. Right. And reality is she can make 85 moves and all you can do is go backward and forward. One little bump, you know what I mean? We can't multitask for shit, but that's another story. What I'm getting at is, like, if you do not show up, the woman will step into her full masculine, which she does not want to do. Like, women don't actually want to, but they will. When kids are involved, especially, they'll castrate the whole house because there's babies involved now. And her maternal instinct is protect the kids first. And if I got a good dude next to me, that's cool too. But once the babies are born, unfortunately, we 100% get pushed to the side a bit. That's okay. It's protect the babies at all costs. And if my man is showing up and protecting the babies and he makes me feel protected and safe, now I can show up in my full feminine for him. And it changes the dynamic of a marriage, like, overnight.
Oh, and I mean, my sex life has been great for the last 10 days, bro. I mean, we'll talk about it all. It's like everything is coming into play there. And even the way that my kids are talking to me. Yeah. Man, whew. Yeah. It's
I can't talk about my kids are all crying.
Yeah, I know.
I'm with you on that. Yeah.
You know, my boy told me, he said, hey, Dad, I scored 100 on my test yesterday. And I was like, okay, out of 100? And he goes, yeah. And he said, I wasn't worried about it. And in the past, we've approached tests as, you got to be prepared. You got to do this. You got to do this. Hey, you know what? Be you. Be the best you can be. Show up that day.
Yep.
And you know what? The one thing that I love about the protocol and the program that's different is, if I fuck up, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I had a guy from California and a guy from Vegas that reached out to check on me that didn't know me 11 days ago.
Yeah.
And these are good dudes, successful dudes, and they're like, you know, they didn't call and say, how much money did you make yesterday?
Yeah.
They didn't call and say, you know, what kind of car you got this week? It was, hey, how are you? How's your family? How are you showing up? So, you know, you bring guys together everywhere.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that has been missing. And I talked to some people in Vegas and the group, and I said, you know, if enough of us start speaking up, then we're going to make a difference and change the world.
Yeah.
And the people that you were able to bring on the stage, and if I'm not mistaken, they showed up to support you.
Well, you heard most of them, and I don't want to, this isn't like a braggadocious moment, but those guys charge $50K an hour to speak, and not one of them, you know, we're not there yet, not even close. Like, we couldn't afford to pay them, you know, next to anything. So yeah, they just, most of the people that are rallying behind this movement are because they're just seeing its direct impact on men. And then those men are going home, and here we go with the ripple or the butterfly effect. And if they could be a part of that, then it's been beautiful, because we've had some very powerful men, and not just financially powerful, but, like, you know, you heard from Matt Murphy, you know, from the Sentinel Foundation. Like, that guy's probably more connected than any human being I've ever met. And what he chooses to do with his time every morning, every moment when he wakes up, is just helps save kids from being trafficked. So there's different levels of success, and there's different levels of people that are interested in what we're doing. And I wouldn't even say interested at this point. You know, we do a lot of talking about interested versus committed. And, like, a lot of these guys are committed to the movement, committed so much so that they'll drop everything and fly out to Vegas and not just hang out for the hour. You know, you get a lot of guys that buzz in, and I get it. They value their time, but they'll buzz in, they'll give you an hour of mic drop moments, and then they'll buzz out. Every single one of these guys was there for 2 days straight. The days were 6 a.m. I don't want to give it away in case anyone comes to one. 6 a.m. to, we won't tell you what time it ends, but long days. And these guys were if they weren't speaking, they were in the back, or they were, like, communing with the members and so on. So it's just been crazy to see the rally behind this movement in such a short time, you know. So
it was the first event that I've been to where the speakers and the keynotes didn't hide behind the curtain when they weren't speaking.
That's powerful.
I could turn around and see them.
Yeah.
Listening, because it's a group.
Yeah.
We're all individuals, but what happens when you get this type of movement together?
Yeah.
You know, and how, you know, what prompted you to put all this together?
It's definitely been a long journey. It's so, like, I don't know if I wore this shirt. I think I did wear this shirt there, the Truth Agreement, right?
Yes. 12-12-18.
12-12-18. My man remembers this. So yeah, so, like, 12-12-18 was, like, my pivotal, like, hinge that really transformed how I started showing up for this world. Like, obviously for myself and my family first, but I didn't master the finance game, but I did well enough that I built a few cool things and I was making pretty good money. Mm-hmm. And the reality was I was cheating on my wife left and right. And it was because I was like, so we talk about the 4 domains, you know, so a 4-dimensional man. I was showing up as a 1-dimensional douchebag. You know, I was doing so well in the finance game that I used that to kind of hide in the other 3 F's. And even though like fitness, I've always been pretty decent at. I played sports my whole life and I used to do the bodybuilding thing. So I like the muscles and the tattoos and the abs and stuff, but it was all bullshit. You know, that there's a heavy argument that can be made, and I've had it made by coaches and mentors. And yes, I have coaches and mentors, so everyone should have them. That a lot of what I was doing in the gym was just building this like suit of armor, like literal physical armor to keep people from like looking too close. You know, like no one really ever knew me at my core. Mm-hmm. And as long as I had this facade and I played the game and checked all these boxes of like, all right, get the hot wife, get the kids, get the 200K sports cars, get the $1 million home, get like every single box that Instagram says to check. I was like, done. Like I will master the game. What the reality was, if you look too close, I wasn't showing up as a good husband. I was at everything for my kids, which is another story where I told myself I was being a good dad, but I wasn't really present, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So it's one thing to be there physically, but if you're at your kid's soccer game and he scores the winning goal and you're on your cell phone making another $1, like, fuck out of here. You know what I mean? So, but then I was married to the fact that I never missed a game. You know, if you want private lessons or $300 cleats, or you want to go to Europe and study abroad, like I provided so well financially for my family that I would not listen to anything else if someone tried to say I wasn't really being a present father. Mm-hmm. So, and then the other thing, again, we'll go back to the infidelity is when I stepped out of my 4 walls, when I left my house every morning, I felt like King Kong. I had 700 people working for me at one time, 23 locations. I built my law firm. I put myself through law school while building my first 8-figure company just because I was tired of paying attorneys that, in my mind, weren't getting it done. So, like, I did all these things, and, like, I felt like the man, and I'm driving a 200K sports car, and a guy would pull up to me at a light and say, like, oh, sick fucking whip, bro. Like, and that felt so good. Like, I'll give you guys just something maybe you don't know. Every single person listening to this, myself included, my man here included, you're all addicts. Like, you're addicted to something. There's 6 chemicals that run our whole life. And the number one, the scariest one, if you don't monitor it, where you're getting it from, your source, is dopamine. So, like, I was really proud of never having an addictive personality. I've never gambled. I haven't been drunk since, like, senior prom. I don't video game. Like, I was really, really weird about kind of hanging my hat on that identity of I'll never be addicted to anything. Like, I don't have that in me. But the reality was I was addicted to what everybody thought about me. I was addicted to affirmation, which is why I went out and, like, not only checked all these boxes, but checked them publicly and let everyone fucking know I'm the man, in case you didn't know. You know what I mean? You know, there was one point when I read a line by Warren Buffett that said the average entrepreneur has 7 streams of income, sources of income. So I went out and opened 7 LLCs. And I was like, fuck yeah, I'm the man now. Now, like, I could be at a networking event, and they'll say, hey, bro, what do you do? And I'll be like, what don't I do? Mm-hmm. Like, you want to talk about, like, douchebag big check? Like, I had it nailed. So, yeah, all that to say, I thought I was doing everything right. I was literally stepping out of my wife because outside of my 4 walls, I felt like the man. But the environment that I failed to create inside of my 4 walls was one of, like, respect and love. And so the story I had going home every day was, how come they don't see what everyone else sees? How come, like, the one person I want that I chose to be with the rest of my life doesn't give me the affirmation dopamine hit that I'm looking for day in and day out? If she's not going to give it to me, fuck that, somebody will. So literally over the course of 17 years, and the reality is this isn't like a mitigating circumstance. I'm actually not a one-night stand guy. I'm a very emotional dude. Like, so anybody I actually had an experience with was kind of like I called myself a serial monogamist, you know? Like, mm-hmm. I literally would put effort into these outside relationships, which is even worse, by the way. Like, you want to talk about, for all of you who think you've never cheated on your wife, an emotional affair for women, and any woman will attest to this, is actually worse and harder to overcome than a physical, like, one-night stand. Because sometimes a girl can kind of play in their mind the Discovery Channel, like, he's a male, testosterone, maybe alcohol was involved, he made a one-off bad decision. Mm-hmm. As devastating as that is, it's nowhere near a 3, 6, 9-month relationship where the reality is that other female is getting a better version of you than your wife is getting. And wow. She's the one that signed up for all the heavy lifting and the hard work. And by the time you get home, she's getting leftovers at best. And so for them, that is much more difficult. Because I've had guys, we've walked a lot of couples through infidelity as a result of our story. My wife and I have been through crazy shit. And now, you know, I can say on this podcast those things. And mm-hmm. I'm sure it stings a little for her and she'll attest to that. But the reality is, the more we've shared our message, the more we've been able to kind of give hope for other couples that are going through it, that there's a way out, you know, because I know a lot of people think, and then their friends will tell them like, oh, once a cheater, always a cheater, or you got to cut them loose, like, et cetera, right? So a lot of couples think once they've crossed that bridge, it's blown and there's no coming back. But the reality is we've walked more people through it successfully than we have, you know, encouraged them to or seen them split. So this movement, I'll circle back, I apologize, literally stemmed from this concept. And Nick Hyder talked about this from stage. You are most uniquely qualified and perfectly positioned to help the person that you used to be. Mm-hmm. And I used to be the guy who thought money was everything. Look at me. I can crush finances. And so don't worry. Don't look too close at my marriage. Don't worry. Don't look too close at my relationship with my babies. Don't look too close on the inside. I know I look jacked, but I've done so many fucking steroids that I probably took 10 years off my life. But don't look too close. Just look close enough to see that I'm a bad mother effer. Yeah. And Instagram says I'm cool, so I'm cool. And so I'm trying to basically show guys, and what we've noticed too, and one of the reasons we try to get guys accelerated financially is almost to kind of like, it's kind of like a rubber band moment. Like, I want you to get out there and feel that, and it's going to snap back so hard, because if you make $1 million and you don't have the other 3 houses in order, you're miserable. And money is an amplifier. So it actually will amplify all of the gaps that are showing up in those other 3. It will amplify the feeling of emptiness. It will amplify the fact that your cup has never really been full, and you thought money was the answer, and you stuffed so much money in that hole, in that cup, and it's still bone dry. And your wife still, you know, has resentment for you, and your kids don't have full respect for you. And the way you're showing up in this community is braggadocious and douchebag and ego and ego and ego. And so, like, I hope everyone goes out and makes money. I'll show you how. The reality is it ain't going to do shit for you. It makes you more of what you already are. Mm. So, like, at your core, if you're not lined up, faith, family, and fitness, go out there and crush it, bro. First of all, easy come, easy go. I can't tell you how many guys that focus on money, they build and they burn, and they build and they burn. Mm. They burn the shit down left and right. They self-sabotage every move. Mm. And then they wonder why they can't get to the next level. So the program was designed to get grown men out of their own effing way. And a lot of that starts with showing up in their full power across faith, family, and fitness first. And when you dial those 3 in, yes, we talk about money. Yes, I will show you the way. But we've gone over this 100 times. Every single mastermind or personal development group out there specific to finance, they're just showing you frameworks and blueprints and hacks and fucking, here's the new copy. Here's the 7-step, you know, nurture sequence to get someone from a no to a yes. Like, everything is centered around how to make money. And the reality is a lot of those things actually work, but you don't work. You're not willing to do the work. You self-sabotage at every corner. You have imposter syndrome. Your house isn't in order. You don't believe in yourself to some degree. There's so many different ways that you're going to create a loop of self-sabotage that it doesn't matter what framework I lay down at your feet, because you're just not ready. You're not ready. And so we're just trying to show guys how to do all the personal work, and then the money comes.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And something that in our first meeting, you know, it's not how, who.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, it's what you're saying right now. Yeah. It's who you are.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man. And as I sit here, I'm like, okay, you know, we've all been through our shit. And then when you come in and you're like, okay, well, he's struggling with that too.
Yeah.
He's struggling with that too. He, you know, and then when you get these guys together, I've had guys in 10 days reach out to me about maybe my faith, and I'm reaching out to them about something that they're excelling in.
Yeah.
And we're balancing and trying to grow. Yeah. And it's an amazing thing. It's, you know, as I'm doing this show right now, I'm just going to be, you know, I'm not going to say it because I don't want to get popped. All right. I stopped myself. But, you know, as I'm doing it, there's so many things that as I start showing up different, I start seeing those other things that are starting to become magnified as, oh, well, I need to go make that better now. And as a man, you can't do it by yourself.
It's actually impossible.
You can't, you know, so.
But we're programmed to play alone. You know, like, it's a dog eat dog world. You're a competitor. Like, you know, we could be, you know, Gary Vee says this a lot, but you can open up a flower shop right across the street from my flower shop. And if I truly believe in abundance and I know what I'm worth to this marketplace and to this world, I'm going to go over and high five you. I'll help you hang up your first shingle. Like, it's all good. Let's go out there and just add flowers to the world. But the way we've been programmed is like, it's me versus you. Again, don't you dare share any sort of like weakness that you're going through, because that's not what men do. And now you've exposed yourself to another man who, again, poses a threat somewhere. Even if he's not in your marketplace, as a man, that man poses some sort of threat to your existence. And the last thing you want to do is basically say, hey man, I'm kind of struggling here. Oh, weakness exposed. Like, and so like, it's very difficult for men to really buy into, like, oftentimes even what we're doing until they come and live this container. But I think when you find, like, entrepreneur is the new black is what I call it, right? It's just the new thing. Yeah. They've been entrepreneurship cool, right? And the reality is you're already alone as a man on several levels, because you feel like the story you're telling yourself is you can't like share some of this shit. Mm-hmm. But then when you go into entrepreneur land, you're even more alone. And it's such a losing battle. Like, nobody wins when they try to fight alone. You can't. Like, you'll see some of these memes online or whatever they're called nowadays, whatever they say online, like, hey, put your head down for a year and go underground and go dark and get shit done. Like, I agree that you don't need to be so public with all your shit, but you definitely need to find a core group of dudes that. Here's the difference, and I need to make this abundantly clear, though. When I say find a bunch of dudes that will, like, look out for you and reach out to you from a whole nother state at 6 a.m. and just check on you and not check on your money or what car you're driving, but ask you how you're doing with your faith and how'd you show up for your wife? Did you do date night this week? Like, it's not always about. Well, it always comes from love, but it can come across as a trigger. So we call it pulling your card. Like, if you don't got a group of men that will pull your card and hold you to your highest and best self, then you don't have a group of men. Like, most of us run in circles of friends that buy our bullshit. Mm-hmm. Hey man, you just buy my bullshit story and I'll buy yours right along, and we'll swap bullshit back and forth, and we'll never really hold each other accountable to who we're ultimately called to be. But that's okay, because I get triggered when you say, hey dude, you said you're going to fix that thing on the fence last week, but I came over for the pool party and the fence is still. The latch is still broken. The kids can get into the pool, or the kids can get out in the yard or whatever, right? Like, you said you were going to do that shit. Why didn't you get it done? And a lot of guys would A, be triggered, or B, wouldn't even have the balls to call their buddy out for that. But they need that. Like, they need you to attack, not them. This is where it gets interesting, is you're attacking their walls. You're attacking their stories. Because where else is that showing up for them? Hey, I'm going to get this thing done. I told my wife I'm going to get the fence mended by Saturday's pool party. Saturday comes around and the work's not done. I promise you that pattern of behavior is showing up in every other domain, and it's stopping you from winning. And until you recognize the pattern, become the observer, show up different, honor your fucking word, and get it done, you don't actually see that pattern change in the other domains. And so you wonder why your finances aren't right. You wonder why you can't really connect with your kids, or you can't get that final percentage of body fat off. Because you bullshit yourself. Like, you literally just lied to your wife. That's an actual lie. And I know why you said, like, me, if anyone says certain things, I flip my wrist. But it's insane to me, like, how it's really actually simple. It just takes a lot, like anything, it takes enough reps to become habitual, to actually become a subconscious programming of how you now operate. And that's one thing when guys come to me. It's difficult to do like the 2-day event, and everyone thinks they're going to come in there, write some cool things down, and feel some kind of way. It's very powerful experiences that we went through, and then go home and change, because none of that actually lands on the subconscious unless you do it repeated, unless you get into a theta or alpha state and actually like rewire the subconscious mind, which we can get into. It's all bullshit work, and therefore it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. And then it's the most dangerous game you can play. Let me just rewind on that real quick. You go to an event, the guy gets on stage. He's doing 8 figures, right? Let's look at, so Bradley's a killer, right? And the first question you're asking yourself, and you already nailed it, you're asking yourself the wrong question. Number one, how? How did Brad get there? How did Brad make all that money? How does Brad do it? No, you're asking the wrong question. Who the hell is Brad at his core? Who is this gentleman, right? Who is Brad on a daily basis? And then you can start to ask how he's showing up, and there's some other hows you can sneak in there. But if you don't start with who, not how, you're never going to win, because how Brad got there is not how you're going to get there. And so you can't follow Brad's framework, because you're not Brad, and you're not where Brad is now, and you're not where Brad was when he started, et cetera, et cetera. So I can't stress enough that unless you actually commit after the event or after anything you learn to a lifestyle that creates actual habitual behavior and rewrites at a subconscious level, nothing sticks. And again, the danger in that is then you really start to beat yourself up. I went to the event. Brad gave me step by 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 mini step by micro step, everything he did to win. And it's right here in front of me. So logic male brain says, if I just follow all of these steps, I have Brad's life. 21 days go by. I've done fuck all, and I'm not Brad. 21 years go by. I've done fuck all, and I'm not Brad. You now create a new loop that something's wrong with me. if that guy did it and it's as easy as executing this framework right in front of me on paper, there must be something broken in me that I can't execute. And so then it becomes actually like these events that you're going to can actually literally cause regression, because you start to now curl up in a ball and say, I'm broken, something's wrong with me. It's just madness to me. It's absolute madness. You know what I mean?
Here at Smith Financial Services, we take care of small business owners, 1099 contract workers, and their families. We know insurance can be rough if you're a small business owner, so we are here to make things easy. Visit our website, smithfinancial.services, to learn more.
Well, yes, sir. And the cool thing again is, you know, as I communicate with these guys and some questions came up, and it's like, you have a system of protocol for everything.
Yeah.
And I know we don't have time for you to nerd out here.
Yeah.
But that's the one thing that I kind of get jealous of. I'm like, okay, how does he know so much about this or that? Or like, how many years and input and things have you put into this that now are coming to light, you know, as far as the mindset or really the scientific basis?
And that's where I live in that world. Like, one thing I figured out a long time ago, and this will come across as an ego player, self-serving, I have a weird brain. I have a weird IQ. I can go and read things or absorb data at a higher rate than most. And then the gift part of it is then I can kind of package it up and push it out in a different way that is a little more digestible or palatable. So over the years, I've spent several $100,000 on personal work. And what I feel like my mission is to go out there and grab all the data and then create systems as a result of that, prove the system works in my life or in those close to me. Like, we run it through a whole proof of concept phase, and then roll that system out to as many dudes as possible. And that's literally like the whole, the logical approach to the program's, you know, inner workings, if you will. And so the reality is, like, it may appear that way, and I'm sure I do have a system for every little thing, but like it's which, when you figure out what you're called to do, like if you look at the word calling, if anyone wants to write this down or just kind of picture it in your head, if you look at the word calling, right in the middle of the C and the G is all in. And this thing doesn't work unless I go all in, unless like even right now, when I'm running this group of all these men, I still have to go out and constantly pour into myself or have other people pour into me, and still spend money and time in other movements to figure out what's working and what's not. And then bring it back to my life, test it in my little lab, and then say, okay, it's ready to roll out. At least version 1, right? The beta version's ready to roll out to my men because it's working. And so I know it appears that way, but the reality is, like, that's just one thing that I've figured out that I'm good at, and I can collapse time for other men. But I'll go out there and I'll figure out, you know, if there's a 1-year course on this and it costs a ton of money and most people can't digest it or whatever, cool, I'll go out and do it. It's only going to better my life. There's a win. And then I'll bring that back. I'll go over with my coaches. We'll distill it down to a place that, like, anybody can digest it and win. And if you want the advanced version, I try to give that away as well too, because I do have some guys that geek out and want to go down the rabbit holes with me. But there's so much data out there. It's hard. Like, where do you start? What do you do? And obviously my program doesn't answer every question, but I can tell you right now, we've done enough work. Like, just to be a coach in my container, you have to have done X amount of work on yourself. Like, nobody preaches from an ivory tower. Like, you kind of have to have a fucked up hero story, number one. But number two, you have to be able to bring value. And now that we're scaling the team, now I can send like Hudson out and say, hey, Hudson, for the next year and a half, you're going to master AI. You're going to learn everything you can. And it's going to cost this many thousands and this much of your time. But I'm going to make sure you can monetize that in the marketplace and step away from fitness, right? As long as you bring all that knowledge back to my people. Right, Chase. So it's like, now we've got a team to deploy to go out there, and I can basically better these individuals. Then they bring it back to the den, and then we parse it out and we spread it out to our movement. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's really what's happening at this. That's kind of the stage that we're at right now.
Awesome. Well, and you know, as we get towards the back end of the show, something that I wanted to tell you is, and I just thought of this while we're talking, is I've told my wife, if I died today, would I be okay with what I did? And that has hit me since Vegas. It's like, okay, we don't know when our time is.
Never.
And if I die tonight, did I leave her this morning happy, you know, and feeling safe and feeling protected and knowing that, you know, I did everything I could. Because how many times have I left the house going, well, you know, to hell with you. I don't care. I'm going out to be with these people or something, you know, and it's like, what matters?
Yeah.
You know, so thank you for that. I mean, that's something that got me. But you know, you've got so many nuggets, and like you said, it is simple, and you are of a certain IQ. I can feel that. But it's simple.
Yeah,
it's really simple, guys, and I can tell you from experience. I've seen, you know, my own life. You know, you think, okay, I'm going to go to this event. There's going to be some cool dudes. We're going to have some fun. We're going to, you know, maybe it's in Vegas. Guess what? You know, it was hard to explain to people I went to Vegas and I didn't gamble. I didn't have any alcohol. I didn't go over here. I didn't do that. We're focused on what we need to be focused on and coming back. So as we go, you know, forward and the movement is, you know, you've got coaches in different places, but one of the cool things is some of your guys who've been through the program, they're now doing different things in different places, right? So how would that work? Is there some guys that are out there that?
Yeah, you know, I think before anybody puts something into the marketplace, the first question you should ask yourself, and this is a fun one because most of my guys, they come to me and they're big, bad business owners. And the first thing I ask, what problem do you solve? And they're like, well, I sell this cool thing. And what problem do you solve? You know, so the first two questions, anybody, if you're starting a business or if you're in business now, you might want to start journaling on these if you can't answer them. What problem do I solve and who do I solve it for? Right. And you can reverse engineer it and start with who. So we work with male entrepreneurs married with kids. You know, I need you to own a business because I need to show you enough money that you can actually make a dent in this world with it. And it's hard because there's guys that are like VPs at Bank of America that probably make $250,000 a year. They can afford the program all day, but I need to be able to take you from a core. Like I need to be able to 3 and 4X what you're doing, so you can get the capacity to take care of your family. But then let me show you what we're doing with the excess funds. We're not buying Ferraris or big fucking houses. It's impact over income. We're helping people. So we only work with business owners. So we're very clear on who we work with. Now, the next question is, what problem do you solve? Well, the problem we solve is the short answer, because we don't have too much time to get into it, but you do need to be able to elevator pitch this, by the way, is we help dudes get out of their own way. And it sounds simple, and then at the same time, you can unpack it 8 different ways. But the reality is, again, I'll sum it up with my car and driver analogy. Everybody wants to drive the badass car, which is basically build the big business. But you're not the driver ready to handle that vehicle. So let's say you're in year 1 and you're driving the Toyota Corolla. That's kind of what your business represents from a place of top line revenue and impact on this world. You're not helping enough people yet. Well, you want to drive the F1, or let's just say the Ferrari. It's you know, easy car that everyone can latch onto. So you want to take your Corolla to a Ferrari, meaning you want to take your baby solopreneur 6-figure company and you want to be doing 8 figures. First question is, why do you want to do 8 figures? Most guys can't answer that because someone said it was cool. Do you know how many fucking headaches you have with that kind of team? Like we call them direct reports. Once you get over 8 or 9 direct reports, meaning you have 8 or 9 people that directly report to you on a daily basis, are you even ready to handle that fucking headache? That's 8 new people with 8 new problems. No fucking way. So all that to say, new levels, new devils. You can go from 6 to 8. So they want the car. So they go to these things because someone's going to teach them how to take their business to 8 figures, the Ferrari. You are not even the driver that is ready to make turn 2. Because behind that wheel, again, we just talked about the direct reports of that Ferrari, to actually navigate the marketplace and spin off the lifestyle and the income and all the things that you say that you want, and you can't even give me a good reason why you want it. There's a driver. Like, again, if I take Elon Musk and I drop him in your company tomorrow, your company's gonna blow up. And not Elon's money, just Elon Musk at his core. Who he is, who, not how. Now, conversely, if I take you and I drop you in Tesla, you're probably going to drop the stock a little bit, my man. Like, you're not ready for Elon's life. Right. You're not. Everyone says they want it, but what that guy has to handle, the capacity. Obviously, he shows a crazy IQ, but that's nothing compared to the people skills he has to have, the relationship building, like networking, just the strategic. Like, we can go on and on. The analogy is simple. The problem we solve is you ain't fucking ready for the things that you say that you want. You don't really know why you want what you say that you want. So we're going to get you real fucking clear. We're going to get you real fucking weaponized. And then I promise you, you can build whatever you want. And so that's the problem that we solve.
Awesome.
So I forget the question because I just went on a rant because I keep doing that. Oh, yeah. So let me ask this. I've had guys pivot inside the program. I apologize. Like, this is it. Guys come in and they are in the insurance game. If you're in the insurance game and I ask you why, the answer is usually, I don't know, or the margins are cool. Well, it supports my family. Why and how did you get in the insurance game? Because my buddy was doing it and he had a lifestyle that I liked. because my buddy was doing it and the margins were good, whatever, right? And some people, well, my buddy was doing it and he's kind of a fucking idiot and he's doing that well. Let me jump in there. You know what I mean? So, these are common answers if we're being brutally honest, which is all we know how to do. So you're in something that you don't know why you're in that vehicle other than it's providing a quality of life for your family. So now you're stuck. A win for me in the program is, and you should ask yourself this as well, who do I serve? What problem do I solve for them? What does the ideal person look like after they've used my product or service? So a guy comes to me on day 1 and then he graduates on day 366, right? 1 year later. What are the characteristics of that human being at his core that I help to alter or maybe just expose and pull out? The reality is a lot of people that find our message, they already have alignment with our assignment, like inside of them. It's just getting them to live that life a little more consistently and start to peel it back. Where I'm going with this, some guy come in as an insurance guy and they leave as a DJ. I mean, it doesn't really matter what you do. It's part of the journey here, besides clarity and awareness, is figuring out what you were called to do. And if you find your purpose inside of my container, and then we can monetize that purpose, again, not from an ugly place of buying cool shit, but if you could do what you know you were called to do for the rest of your life and pay all your bills and help people, would you do it? The short answer is hell yeah. You know what I mean? But where most guys get stuck is they don't really know what they're supposed to be doing. They don't know how to start going down that path. They don't know how to find it. They're frightened to leave the ball and chain, which is the business that they say that they created, even though they don't own a business. Their business owns them now. And they don't want to step out of that. So my job is to get you out of there, show you what you're supposed to be doing, help you find it, right? And then monetize it to some degree. Like our biggest wins are not the guys that we've created, several millionaires, yada, yada. We've got guys that are making good money, but if they're not in love with how they're making it, then that's not a win for me. It's not a win for me.
Got it. Well,
so purpose is crucial.
This is one story that just, again, hit me. Yesterday morning, I had a very hard conversation with somebody, and I knew who they were, but I needed to call and tell them something that was a truth.
Yep.
And we had the conversation. They actually asked me if I could call them back because it kind of caught them off guard. And we finished the conversation. And then my wife came to me and she goes, "What did they end up saying?" I said, at the end of the conversation, they told me thank you because they had been, living in a lie. Yep. And I shared that truth that made sense to them. And everybody left that conversation better.
Better for having had it.
Better.
Than never having it.
It was hard to have.
100%.
And I sent a message to see, hey, are you available? Because I was going to avoid the call because technically we were supposed to be here yesterday. We had to adjust.
Yep.
And I thought, if I was pulling this rig up to Nashville, I would have made that call yesterday. But it prompted me when I was at the gym doing my workout, Chris. I was at the gym doing my workout.
Come on, Coach Chris.
I looked up and saw something and I thought, and I need to reach out to that person.
Yeah.
I need to share that truth. And it was not an easy conversation, but the truth and that acronym and that word, and my wife told me last night as I was getting ready to get up here, she goes, truth. Yeah. Truth. So what's the acronym for truth? Will you share that with us?
Well, it's on the back of my man's shirt, but this is our code. So the shirt he has on says code. I don't know if you'll be able to spin long enough to read it. I don't need to see it. Obviously, I have it memorized, but for those of y'all, we can post it somewhere for you.
We'll put it right here.
But it's literally like, I think every man should live by a code. And if you step into our world, you absolutely have to commit verbally on video so we can hold you to it and hold up that mirror to the code. So it's trust the process is the T. Results matter because, again, we're not focused on like money as a result, but every result that you have gives you an opportunity for feedback, which is the real reason why you have to study the results. Because if you don't like the results, you have to change the behavior that got the results. So TRU, uphold the standard. Again, most men just don't have a series or set of standards for their life. And so, they're constantly just kind of drifting and floating. And once you create a standard and you tell yourself it's now what we call non-negotiable is another word for a standard, that just becomes your new baseline. So some people's floor, or some people's ceiling, we make their new floor, meaning you can't ever drop low. And then that gives you an opportunity for what? A new ceiling. So TRUT. The second T is take care of your brothers. One of the most selfish things you can do is actually live in the world of selfless behavior. And I know it sounds weird, but the actual reward, sometimes you feel a little selfish because when you help other people win, we talked about dopamine, there's actually a release of an exchange of oxytocin, which is about 7x stronger than dopamine. It's just harder to come by because you have to actually do things for other people, not yourself. So taking care of your brothers, if you want to win in this world, just go help other people win. Like if you want to make $1 million, go help 1 million people and then add enough value to their life where you can charge them $1. And that is a simple formula, but just take that formula and play with it. Help people win. And I promise you'll win. So take care of your brothers. And then the favorite one, the last one, the H, is honor your word. I wear this little band right here. It says the cost of greatness and impact over income. We don't have time to get in that today, but I use it. I'll be in a conversation with a grown man. I was actually talking to Matt Murphy yesterday at lunch, and God bless him. But, you know, it's normal in your vernacular, to be honest. Truth be told, full transparency. Well, the truth is, like, there's so many like turn of phrases that people just use every day now. And every time I hear one, I do this. And it's to remind myself what I was put on this earth to do, which is not only to go out there, gather data and teach it, it's to help men stop lying. Like the number one way we get dudes out of their way is to get them radically honest with themselves and then by proximity with others, which is what you experienced with that conversation. Mm-hmm. It's hard. Like we call that the capacity for collision, by the way, which is another huge growth point for you. So it's cool for me to hear this live on this thing. When you have the capacity to have a collision with another human being that you know you need to have, but you have so many fucking stories that stop you from having it, that one movement right there changed how that guy's going to show up now. Mm-hmm. Because you chose to show up different. Again, the old you might have said, well, you know, it's not for me to tell him. I don't know how that's going to go. He might not like me. Like on and on. We can create all these scenarios why we shouldn't have that conversation with that individual. Once you create the capacity to collide, the capacity for collision, and you have it from a place of absolute love, like you can fuck someone up like from a place of love. I do it for a living. It's jab, jab, bear hug. Like, look, I'm going to tell you some things that are going to fucking hurt. But when you realize how radically honest I'm being with you right now, and I'm only doing it I'm attacking your walls, not you. Hopefully, and it doesn't always happen round one, by the way. So I love that he said thank you. A lot of guys won't say thank you out of the gate. They get triggered. When you pull another man's card, another grown man, if you don't have that baseline of relationship established, you're going to get mother effed. Like, it's just going to happen.
Oh, well, that was part of the conversation.
Yeah, but
at first, it was, well, fuck, you know, it was.
Yeah, so the H is honor your word. It means all things truth. And again, I have this thing I do. Like, you can be in a combo with me. I'll do it on podcasts left and right, too. And I won't say why I'm doing it. Most people have no clue. They think it's a nervous tick, or they just don't really want to ask me why I'm doing it. They don't have the capacity for collision, per se. But yeah, I just do this. And then sometimes people ask me, and I'll tell them why I did it. And again, some guys get triggered. But I try to approach it from a place of like, look, it's not enough for me to live in, the truth agreement 12-12-18. I haven't told a lie in 5 years. It's not enough for me to live in this world of truth if I can't bring others along with me, because it is the best thing I've ever done. And so it's just like, how do I start that conversation? Well, right now it's this has become a tick now. It's a subconscious trigger. If I hear certain words, I don't care where I am. If I hear them on TV, I do it. My kids laugh. You know what I mean? It's just where we're at. I have a podcast that I'm a big Manchester United fan. I don't think I can show my tattoo, but and I've noticed this. Anything I listen to from like Europe, especially British, that's like the go-to. To be honest, bruv, you know what I mean? Whatever. They use those turn of phrases way more than my experience, what we do stateside. So I've got certain podcasts I don't even listen to anymore because I'll break my wrist, And I've been through about 8 of these rubber bands, Yeah. So anyway, that's our code. The code is truth. Everything is honesty. It has to start there. If you can't be honest with you, then I can't help you. Because I don't know what you really want, because I don't know where you're really at, because you're just still putting up a ego wall. Mm-hmm. And if I can't get you radically honest, then you're probably not going to get a lot done in this container. And that's just a fact.
That is a fact.
Yeah.
And experiencing that, man, it's like, our first meeting and the things we've shared today, time collapse. I go there. I realized in Vegas, I didn't have anybody really checking me.
Yeah.
I was just making decisions based off of whatever I thought was going to be best. But now I know there's other guys. They're going to check me, and they're going to say, okay, why are you doing it that way?
Yeah.
Is that serving you? And the one thing that prompted here, the church that we go to in Alabama, they have 23, 24 locations. But Chris Hodges is a preacher there. And a couple of weeks ago during the sermon, he said, you need to pray for more than you need, or you won't be able to help people. Mm. And that's coming from a preacher, right? And then preachers are, I grew up and, you don't get too much. You got to be humble. You got to do
money's the root of all evil is a very common phrase in that organization, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like he's standing on the stage saying, for years I prayed for God to give me what I need.
Yeah.
But what can I do with what I need?
Yeah.
Who else can I take care of? And that's the one thing that really got me excited when, Matt was at the event. And it's like, okay, sure, some guys have Ferraris that were at the event or this, that, or the other, but they're also putting a lot of money back into things to make a real difference, And that's the reason that I aligned with it immediately. Yeah. It's like, okay, where's the extra going? Oh, right back into helping people.
Impact over income. Make enough income to get yourself to a place where you can make a dent, you know? So it is like my cup runneth over. You have to fill your cup to a degree that everything's cool on the home front, and you have the capacity and the leverage, the funds to now go out there and make a big dent before you leave this place. So like, I'm all for having nice things, but to a degree, eventually they're just things. And what, you know, like I always akin it to like Schindler's List. Again, I'm 42. So if anybody remembers that movie, but you know, when he's like looking at his watch and he's like, I could have saved 3 more. Wow. It's like, how can you, when you look up at all the shit that you have, how can you start to live within your means, but really get rid of the shit? Or if that's your driving force is the shit, so everyone says you're cool because you got a cool car. Like it's about asking yourself the right questions, you know, like the who not how's a great starting point. But there's another quote out there that I absolutely love, which states the quality of a man's life is directly related to the quality of the questions he's willing to ask himself. And I just feel like most men just aren't asking the right questions, and that's okay, because you don't know what you don't know. But until you start really, really holding up a mirror and really doing the deep work on self, like nothing changes. Nothing changes. You know what I mean?
What's the age range of guys that have been through the program?
It's crazy because we've got some 22-year-olds and then we've got a couple 55, 57-year-olds. So it really depends. I'll say this, it's sometimes harder when the guys are older to like teach an old dog new tricks, I guess is a common sentence. But those guys are a little more stuck in their ways and I got to like beat them over the head a little harder. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times they're in a place in their life, like on their entrepreneurial journey, that if we can get a perspective shift out of a gentleman in his 40s or 50s, and he's created enough wealth that he can go make a big dent, those guys do have a big impact. But again, I akin back to Nick South, which is the guy that sold his wife's minivan to pay for the program and became our youngest millionaire. He was 24 at the time. It does blow my mind when a kid in his 20s is even like, has the level of consciousness to want to show up to one of these events and even receive these messages, because the stuff we're talking about, again, I've kind of watched what I call the character arc of the male entrepreneur, and they all start out with money and things and look at me and affirmation. And then you start to realize like, that's not that cool. And that's why I want everyone to win. I want everyone that's listening to this, please go make your first million. Talk to me. I'll show you how, because the character arc seems to be, now I want to give it all away now. Like I feel empty. And when I feel the most alive is when I help another grown man win or another family win, etc. And so I'm just obsessed with like that arc, and I can almost tell you when it's going to happen in most men's lives. Not always from their age, because obviously a 24-year-old has amazing maturity, but I can watch their journey and say, okay, he's hitting a point now where he's starting to realize his cup's not full, even though he made bank, bro. He's going to now start having conversations with himself, hopefully, but at least with me, so I can have him have conversations with himself around, why do I not feel fulfilled? What's my next move? And the next move is some form of philanthropy. It's give all this shit. Like my tagline, most people know this when we do talk money, and I hardly don't anymore, is it's 50 by 50 and give it all away. So I want to have $50 million by the time I'm 50, I'm 42. And then I want to die broke. And that's not like some martyrdom thing, but it's like, I don't need this shit. Like what you do for yourself dies with you. What you do for others lasts forever. And so if I died with $50 million in net worth or things, like what did I do? And by the way, my kids get frustrated when I talk about this because they're not getting shit. Like I talk to them, like you might get, you'll get, the definitely not even going to get $1 million, you know, and that's even like piss poor money nowadays when you look at the grand scheme of the economy and where it's heading. And they're still young enough that like by the time they receive anything as a result of what I've built or what we've built together as a family, they will have to have so many courses on just basic financial literacy, and they, you know, like there will be qualifiers, and even then, I'm definitely not getting you. Like you need to go. I was homeless for a long time, right? We didn't have time to get into that. But it's like, when I talk to my wife, I'm like, dude, throw these kids out on the street. Let's see who makes it back. That's a fact, because I'm only where I'm at because I've been through some crazy hard shit.
Right.
And the worst thing I could do for my kids is set them up just set them up. Here's a couple million in a property. Here's a business idea. I'll watch over you and make sure you win. Fuck that. Go out and fall. Go out and fail. Go out and have some shit happen to you and build some character.
Yeah.
I'll be there. I don't want you to get hurt too bad. I'll be there. But I'm telling you right now, go do some things, make some shit decisions so you can get the feedback and learn. Because if you don't, then I failed you. So even when I talk about building big shit, man, it's like when I say give it away, it's what dent can I leave? And unfortunately, it does take money, you know, to to leave a massive dent. And so it's 50 by 50. And I'm not giving it all away on my 51st birthday, but I'm going to start bleeding it out. And it's going to be beautiful to sit back on a rocking chair, drinking some sweet tea in Nashville, Tennessee with my missus and just talking about who we helped and help go to college here and build this foundation here. And like, you know what I mean? Like helped a bunch of old versions of me, helped that homeless kid figure out that he's got something to add to this world. Yeah. And I gave him a shot when no one else would, because we had the leverage, because we had the funds, because we had the fucking capacity. Like that's the vision. You know what I mean? I want to die broke.
All right. Well, here's one thing that I wish, you know, and I've watched a few of your shows and gotten to know you over the past few months, but, you know, it's like, guys, go follow this guy. He's not going to self-promote himself. Yeah. He's not going to sit here and toot his own horn. He's not going to sit here and tell you that this is something you got to do. But go follow Nick. Go listen to him. And if you don't like it, hey, he may not be for you at the moment. It may not be the right time.
Yep.
You know, it's just not the right time. So, you know, as we wrap up the show, because I just looked and I know you've got, I think on your calendar, did I see any white spaces today?
No white spaces. Yeah, no white spaces.
So to keep you on track so that I don't get a, you know, well, is there something you would like to leave us with today? If you want to look in that camera right there, is there a quote? Is there a statement? Is there something that you could just, you know, share with us to say this is?
Yeah, you know what? I could pull something. You talk about all the data I go out there and collect. I like to do something different every time I'm asked, so it's not the same old. And I hate when people go look up a podcast and I'm doing the same thing. So this is one of my favorite ones I haven't shared with probably in 2 years, even our group. To get from A to B, like how did you get here this morning? When you were in Alabama and you said I got to get to the spot in Nashville, what'd you do?
Checked the text message from you and got the address.
And then when you got the address, what did you plug it into?
The GPS.
There it is. So in order to get from A to B, you have to have some sort of global positioning system, right? GPS is what tells you turn by turn, step by step, how to get there. That's your blueprint. One of the things I'd like to encourage every man listening to this is start to rewire that GPS. And I'll give you the 3 little letter acronym. So obviously GP and S. Most men are living in a state of good enough. What we like to do here is rewire your GPS, your first letter G, from good to great, which I know sounds simple and doesn't seem like much of a gap. But the reality is most people aren't doing what it takes to be great, because when it's good enough, they let off the gas. So if you could start to ask yourself, what would it look like to wake up every day and pay the cost of greatness? Like everyone wants to be great. They want to be a 1%er. They want to live a great life. They want a great relationship with their wife and kids. They want to look in their bank account and feel great about it, but they don't really want to do what it takes. And one thing I can tell you is that the greats are just doing consistently what the goods do occasionally. So if you just every once in a while you get a little wild hair and you want to go on a workout routine and you last 21 days, like ask yourself, what does it cost to go from good to great? And the key there is consistency and some sort of vision on what greatness is for you. So step 1, rewire your G, good to great. P, profit to purpose, which we expounded on quite a bit in this conversation, is like if you are waking up every day and every single driver for you to go crush it, bro, is centered around profit, you will lose. And so again, ask yourself the deep questions like, why did I build this thing? Why am I in insurance? Why did I build this thing to help men? Like, what is my purpose? Is my purpose to actually get guys out of their own way? Whatever it is, ask yourself, how do you start having a shift from focusing on profitability and start focusing on helping people? And what is your purpose on this planet Earth? So that's another massive shift that you can make today. And my favorite one, and this is what I want for every man inside of my program, it doesn't always happen in 1 year, but I'm on this journey myself. We all are. Is from success, we're on S now, success to significance. And like, you ask people to define success, and most people can't. And a lot of people, of course, will say like financial freedom, or, you know, obviously money comes into play. As soon as you hear the word success, it's got enough S's in it that they start to look like dollar signs. I get it. But what would it look like? I'm trying to get everybody successful so they can feel what it feels like on my side of the fence, which is to be significant in one human being's life, let alone many. But if you can like alter the course of the trajectory of one man's life by one powerful conversation, by calling that dude and pulling his card and holding him radically honest to one word, which is truth. Like there's a very easy argument to be made that one conversation made you more significant in that man's life. Mm-hmm. And when you gap that, you know, bridge that gap from successful to like, how do you be significant? Like Brad's on this right now. The reason Brad Lee and I have been hanging out a lot, and the reason I absolutely love this dude, he's amounted a tremendous amount of success. Like true or not true?
True.
And obviously optics and he's got things. But when you look at Brad, every conversation I've had with him over the last 3 months is like, how do I take everything I've built, and namely my brand and my influence? I have so many people that listen to me, but I want them all to win. So how can I actually take all of my success and transform it into as much significance before I leave this planet Earth? And so that's like, I know it's long-winded, so I know we got to go, but like it's how can I go from good to great, from profit to purpose, and most importantly, from success to significant. And then again, the significant is about what can you do for others. And then if you can rewire that and start to operate with that map, it's game over. It's game over.
Nick, thank you so much for being on the show today, man. The realness, the genuineness, I know you guys can feel it. So, guys, I don't know what else to say, bro.
Nothing to say. I don't know what to do with my hands all the time. I have people watch my podcast. They're like, bro, you're always like fidgeting. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's what we
just
do.
Record me from here up, and even then, I'll probably make a dumb face or two. So, yeah,
love that at the end, man. But thanks again. Thank you so much. Thank you for having us to this beautiful property, taking us on a tour, seeing everything. It's beautiful.
You're gonna hate me on June 13th at this same property. Just be ready for that.
I love you on the 13th, but I love you anyway. All right, guys. Thank you for watching Podcast on Wheels.
All right.